Welcome to Valley Newsline for the week of December 17th, 2006. Hello, I'm your host, Ron Whitlock. On the program today, the president of the Rio Grande Valley Partnership, Mr. Bill Summers, and the editor of the Rio Grande Guardian, Mr. Steve Taylor. Steve, Bill, welcome to the program. We got a lot to talk about, so stick with us because we're going to tell you what the issues are as they relate to the southern area of South Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, the four-county valley area, going into the 80th Texas legislative session in Austin come next month, January. Anytime the legislature is in session, that's good news. Anytime the legislature is in session, that can be very, very bad news. You just got to watch what they're doing, right, Bill?
Amen. Amen.
Right, Steve?
Definitely.
And Steve and I are both going to be in Austin quite a bit this legislative session because it could be very, very divisive because immigration bills are already in the hopper, more expected. Those could create a divided Texas between southern Texas, predominantly Hispanic, predominantly poor, predominantly Democratic, I-10 South. On the north side, predominantly Republican, predominantly white, predominantly more rich, more money in the bank, more money in their pocket, more discretionary income, so to speak. So those are the issues we're going to talk about here on this program today, so stay tuned. First of all, I'm going to talk about transportation. Why is transportation important, Bill, to the people watching this program? What does it mean to them, their quality of life, their family?
Well, first of all, they use our highways to get to work, to take their kids to school, to go to schools. The buses are on our highways, and it's very, very important. We should have done what we're doing now many, many years ago.
What does it mean to their jobs, the economy of this region, South Texas, and this entire state and the entire nation?
Right, because our roads here in the Rio Grande Valley and our bridges here in the Rio Grande Valley are used to transport products to and from Latin America and Canada and the rest of the United States. So we, because of our transportation or our highways, we create jobs all over the United States.
At a meeting of the Rio Grande Valley Mobility Task Force in Weslaco just over a year ago, Mario Jorge, engineer for TxDOT's Florida District Office, said that his agency would begin issuing requests for proposals from the private sector from January to improve routes under consideration for Trans-Texas Corridor 69 in South Texas, including Highways 59, 281, and 77. Jorge responses were expected then by the summer of 2006. Well, that is gone. Now, Texas Transportation Commissioner Ted Houghton of El Paso came to the Valley November 8th of 2005. He said then, I-69 is dead in the state of Texas. The road ferry has been shot. Bill Summers, what did you think when he made those remarks at your meeting?
Well, I had to get myself off the floor because I couldn't believe that. I didn't even consider something like that being said. But I'm glad he said it because it brought a lot of people together up in arms here in the Rio Grande Valley, and we were upset, and we said we couldn't believe it, and it's not true. That isn't what we've been told all these years. And from then, some good things have happened.
Well, after that occurred, you went to Houston to the I-69 conference,
yes,
and the governor came and had some good news for you.
Yes, he said that he is instructing the Texas Department of Transportation tomorrow to start looking at building an interstate highway to the Rio Grande Valley.
So you said at the time, early Christmas for South Texas.
Yes, and that's what the chairman of the Highway Commission told me. He said, you're going to have a good Christmas present, Bill.
So here we are a year later. What's been done? Has there been anything, as far as you're concerned, tangible to make you feel like it is going to occur? There was anticipation that would be signed, executed, something in writing in November 2006. November is gone, and here we are in the month of January. Carlos Koskas told this audience, and you and I and Steve, that in fact something's going to be done this month. Valley Newsline was at the state capitol. We asked Texas Governor Perry about completion of 37 from Corpus Christi to Brownsville. Here's the governor's response.
those roads will be built when they're needed. And I think that's an important part of this, is that we're not fixing to go off on some building program just for the sake of building. So all of it will be driven by the private sector and them making a decision along with the state that those types of roads will be needed, and as they are needed, they will be built.
Following that interview with Texas Governor Perry, we talked to the chairman of the TxDOT Commission, Rick Williamson. He had these things to say regarding something in the works regarding Valley transportation, completion of I-69 and/or Interstate Quality Highway.
The point the governor was making at the I-69 conference, and he would make if he were here today, is he's instructed us to spend the money to get an Interstate Quality Highway from Corpus Christi through the Brownsville, McAllen area, and we're going to do that.
That specific project.
Or a project of some kind. There's going to be an Interstate Quality Highway in that area.
Your response to what the governor said and Rick Williamson said, you saw
yes,
their remarks.
And I was there when the governor made his first remarks in Houston.
A year ago.
And I was there when Rick Williamson made his remarks right after the governor spoke. But then also this past year, the Highway Commission met in Brownsville. And one of the things that the highway chairman said, it's going to depend on the local people working together. Well, we brought our mobility task force together, the people on the 281 project and the 77 project, and we made a note to the commission that this is what we wanted. And what we told them is that we always kind of knew that 77 would be upgraded first because of the ports. But we could still have the best of everything, because all we need on 281 right now is a loop around Falfurrias, which the money is already there, a loop around Fremont, which they're working on, and an overpass at Ben Bolt. And I've been told that those things are in the hopper right now.
And Mario Jorge, as we just reported just a moment ago, over a year ago, made the same comment that there was something there at that point in time, some funding available under TxDOT and under his auspices to get those things taken care of.
He's instructed us to spend the money to get an Interstate Quality Highway from Corpus Christi through the Brownsville, McAllen area, and we're going to do that. There's going to be an Interstate Quality Highway in that area.
The TxDOT Commissioner, Rick Williamson, telling you and I one more time that his boss, the governor of Texas, has instructed us, TxDOT, to build an interstate quality project, and we're going to do that.
Yes.
Well, to bring things up to speed now, the interesting aspect we've had this week is this new report, transportation report from the Texas Transportation Institute out of Texas A&M College Station. And I think the legislators are going to take a close look at that, because what that tells us is they claim that TxDOT has been overestimating just how much of an increase we need in the gas tax to pay for the state's transportation projects for the next 30 years. This well-respected institute believes that the gas tax would not have to rise anywhere near as much as TxDOT is claiming, and that has implications for toll roads all over the state, because if the gas tax could be increased by a smaller amount, we may not need toll roads. Does that have implications for I-69 or I-37 and all the other toll roads that have been proposed around the state? That's what lawmakers are going to be looking at this session.
Right. And you know, you can go out on 77 and 281 right now, and they are building an interstate quality highway. They're building the overpasses. They're building the overpasses up to San Manuel and up past Raymondville. So
Much of this work started under the 10-year Ramadeo sign before he went to Austin.
And they're not going to go one day and bring a bunch of equipment and start building an 1,800-mile highway all the way to Port Huron. They're going to do it in segments, 10-mile, 15-mile, 30-mile, 5-mile. And that's the way this is going to be built.
But what are the implications of this report now coming out of College Station? The governor's alma mater. He's going to have a hard time running away from that. Yet he and Rick Williamson have been selling the necessity, the ultimate need for toll roads as the rationale behind all of the things that are being said regarding building new highways in the state of Texas. in the near future, and roads and railroads. To quote the governor, he said in a news release December 8, 2005, "When construction is complete, Texas will benefit from unprecedented trade opportunities, a faster, more reliable transportation system, and thousands of new jobs." Perry continues, "For decades, Texas has relied on the private sector to finance and build our telecommunications and our utility infrastructure. It's time we harness the private sector to finance our roads and railroads." He's making that tie-in between what had been done in the telecommunications and our electric power and utility infrastructure, now claiming that we need as a state to go out and get private sector financing for our railroads and our highways.
Okay, but let me get back to that report. The Texas Transportation Institute says that over the next several years, we can save $30 billion by increasing a small gas tax of 39 cents. The TxDOT said we would have to increase it $1.20, but they said that they didn't add into it the increase in people traveling our highways, buying more gas. So I think TxDOT and the Transportation Institute are going to sit down together and try and figure out what's what.
TxDOT has not accepted this report. They say they're still looking at this report. The report says that TxDOT added into their equation some new road projects in cities that TxDOT doesn't have responsibility for. So, as I say, I think the legislature is going to look closely at that report. It may have some impact as we look at projects next session.
Yeah, because TxDOT don't go into cities, and they had $8 billion put in there to go into build roads in cities.
Having this report come out now, Steve and Bill, could it have ramifications on the aspects of the potentiality of this I-37 completion from Corpus Christi to the Port of Brownsville, and perhaps rail being a part of that, would not necessarily have to be a toll situation or a pass-through toll situation?
Well, yeah, that's implication, and I think we're going to. I think in the early part of spring, March or April, that I think TxDOT is going to go out and get bids to build the highway under the current system.
The Trans-Texas
Texas
Corridor
right.
It's all about, with Trans-Texas Corridor, the governor has explained this, it's all about private companies building the roads. What this report suggests is we could do it under the old-fashioned way, simply through the gas, increasing in the gas tax. It would be built by the state. If you have a private contractor building those roads, that will necessitate toll roads.
And
Well, you and I, Bill, have watched Connie de la Garza confront Rick Williamson in the past. This is the only region in the nation of 1 million people without a completed interstate highway, not a completed interstate toll highway, but an interstate highway paid by gas taxes and by money sent to Washington, D.C.
That's right. And we don't get, the money that we send to Washington, D.C. and then they give it back to us. We don't get our fair share. We get about 92 cents, or maybe less right now, on every dollar we send to Washington. We only get 92 cents back.
Out of the state of Texas.
Right.
But you're of the position that those in South Texas, the Valley, get even less than they send up to Washington, D.C.
But there's other states like Boston, where Boston is, Massachusetts. They get $1.35 or $1.65 for every dollar they send to Washington. That's not fair.
And I'll throw one other bill into the mix here from State Representative Joe Pickett, who is a bit of a transportation expert out of El Paso. He's filed a bill that would require the Transportation Commission to be run by a statewide elected official rather than the current 5 commissioners. That's going to be interesting to see where that goes this session.
Right.
Carol Keaton Strayhorn, probably her last issued press release as comptroller, says this: the absence of the estimated 1.4 million undocumented immigrants in Texas in fiscal 2005 would have been a loss to our state gross state product of $17.7 billion. You heard it. Undocumented immigrants produced $1.58 billion in state revenues. which exceeded the $1.16 billion in state services they received. So they had a net gain to the state coffers of almost $500 million, and these illegal, that's what Lou Dobbs would call it, the undocumented immigrants, 1.4 million, they're estimated in the state, have meant $17.7 billion in economic activity to the state of Texas in 2005. So now we've got a senator coming in from the city of Houston. Tell us about that senator, Steve Taylor.
Dan Patrick, new senator, very well known in the Houston area because he's a radio personality. He has an afternoon drive time show on a talk radio in Houston. He's coming into the Senate, and his two main issues, it would appear, according to his radio broadcasts, are lower property taxes and what people down here might classify as immigrant bashing. He is concerned about the cost of undocumented immigrants. It will be interesting to see what he thinks of Strayhorn's report. Now, everyone's waiting to see what impact he has in the Senate as to whether he may be the Senate's version of Leo Berman, the House member from Tyler who's filed the bill that would basically stop the children of undocumented immigrants from having state benefits. House Bill 28 has caused a tremendous amount of controversy and publicity going into this session.
And based on federal law, these are U.S. citizens, even though they're born to undocumented immigrants.
The children.
And they would no longer be able to get state services.
Correct.
Based on that bill.
Correct. But what's been interesting this last week, we've had two quite useful conferences in Austin. The Texas Association of Business had a conference on immigration. The Texas Border Coalition had their legislative conference. And what we're seeing emerge there is rather a broad coalition to defend immigrants' rights and oppose those sorts of bills. You're seeing the coalition, the emergence of corporate America. Bo Pilgrim from Pilgrim's Pride, the poultry company, he gave a speech at the Texas Border Coalition conference, and it's clear now that corporate America is very concerned. They want comprehensive immigration reform. They want a guest worker program. They're working with the churches. They're working with civil rights groups, and they're working with border elected officials to present rather a powerful and broad coalition which basically will defend immigrants.
Now, Bill, the Valley Partnership is bringing down to South Texas in January the legislative tour for Hidalgo County. Last legislative session happened in Cameron County. Right. Tell us about that tour. Will this particular tour of senators and representatives coming to South Texas as the guest of your organization, Rio Grande Valley Partnership, if you get adequate funding from sponsors and others,
right.
What will you be telling them in order to prepare them for this divisive legislative year between immigration issues at the border and North Texas?
Well, what I want to show them, and the partnership wants to show them, and the people in the Valley, is that we want to show them how closely we work together with Mexico, that we need Mexico here in the Rio Grande Valley, and the state of Texas needs the people in Mexico. We've got to find a way.
As the Strayhorn report indicates.
That's right. And we've got to, you know what's wrong with why we have so many illegal aliens, which I call them, is because we take so long, the federal government takes so long to give them their papers, and we got to find a better way of doing it. So that's one of the main things we're going to be talking about. We're going to go to a children's hospital. We're going to go to a maquila. A lot of them hadn't seen that. We're going to go to a fruit packing plant. A lot of them they don't know that grapefruit grows on trees. They think, I guess, it comes in the ground like potatoes, you know. So it's a good trip.
It will be great if the Leo Bermans and the Dan Patricks of this world are invited and actually show up in the Valley.
That's the reason we got to keep the U.S. consulate in Matamoros, because we brought the ambassador down that was in charge of closing those, brought him down and let him see the Valley and how close we are with Mexico.
As a program note, the 2005 legislative tour brought to South Texas by the Rio Grande Valley Partnership can be accessed by going to valleynewsline.tv, top issues area of our website. Also, this program you're seeing right now can be accessed 24/7 at valleynewsline.tv. Texas Senator John Cornyn issues this report through the Rio Grande Guardian. With the 109th Congress in its waning hours, United States Senator John Cornyn is attempting a last-ditch effort to amend the impact of the border wall bill. Cornyn, who voted for the Secure Fence Act, wants to give the Department of Homeland Security greater flexibility in where it places fencing and other physical barriers. U.S. Representative Solomon Ortiz of Corpus Christi said trying to improve the border bill was like putting lipstick on a pig. Where does Hutchinson come in? She says the border states have borne a heavy financial burden from illegal immigration. Their local officials are on the front lines. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson further continues to say in her speech before the U.S. Senate, seen in the congressional record, they, being local officials, should be part of the solution. Amen. Senator Cornyn told us on camera how he is going to handle the fence bill.
Senator Hutchinson and I have been working closely with our colleagues in the appropriation process to make sure that we include local and state authorities in determining what's the best solution to the problem. So I think while some fencing I think is appropriate, I don't think you'll see 700 miles of fence being built. And frankly, I don't know anyone who thinks that if you built a 700-mile fence, it would solve our border security problems. We need to figure out what the best mix of technology, people, and infrastructure is necessary to provide border security.
Your comments, Bill Summers, about the
Well, you know,
fence being built?
they say a wall or a fence, but there's going to be a lot of areas where they're going to do it with cameras. And I wish they would say some of those things. But the main thing is they're not going to have enough money in my lifetime to build that fence. They voted to build the fence, but they didn't vote any money to build it with. So I don't think we're going to see a fence for many years.
Fences built along the border with Arizona, border of California, have been totally ineffective. They just worked their way around it and built tunnels under those fences.
And how, if they build a metal fence, solid metal fence like that you've seen in California on the river, how are we going to get our water out of the river?
The New Mexico Governor, Bill Richardson, has said to the incoming Democratic Congress, just scrap that bill altogether. Look at this again, because as the bill stands, the Department of Homeland Security has to build that wall in certain places, like between Laredo and Brownsville, within 18 months. So clearly Congress is going to have to look at that again.
But you know what? You know, we're having problems with our levees. If they want to do that, build the fence on the levees so we don't have to raise the levees, and the fence will hold the water. But that's crazy. Those guys up there, sometimes they drive me nuts. I don't even think they know how to get back and forth to work without a limousine driver taking them. You know, that's how bad they are sometimes. But I'm so proud of our two senators and our congressman from the valley. They are looking out to protect the economy and the lives in the Rio Grande Valley, so I'm proud of that. But Kay Bailey and John Cornyn are good people.
They realize, as Carol Strayhorn's report showed, that the cost of undocumented immigrants here is being borne by the local communities, as you pointed out there with Senator Hutchinson's remarks. And it was interesting at the Texas Association of Business conference last week, Bill Hammond, the president, says he would like to encourage Congress to look again at funding for border communities, or those communities that bear the greatest cost in undocumented care created by undocumented immigrants. So there are reasons to be hopeful that in the coming Congress in January that these sort of issues will be looked at.
Thank you very much, Steve Taylor, editor of the Rio Grande Guardian, and Bill Summers,
I think they're
president of the
illegal
Rio Grande Valley
aliens.
Partnership.
They're not undocumented workers. They're illegal aliens.
And with that, we will say adieu until next time. Adios.